welcome to the What's Happenin' Music Show. My name is Jamie C, and I'm joined by my colleague Michelle Louise. We hope you guys are doing well, and thank you for joining us on our latest podcast. Now, on today's show, we will be discussing, as always, the music that we have discovered recently, and we're also going to be breaching the topic about how important the artist or the creative is to society. We also have an interview, and we're going to jump across to France for this, with an artist known as Clint Slate, and just talk about the upcoming album he's got and the music he's produced so far. So we're going to kick things off with our discoveries, and I'm going to go first. So my first discovery is a UK country singer-songwriter star, Laura Beckwith. Now, Laura Beckwith, like many musicians, she started her journey by learning the piano and then kind of cutting her teeth by doing shows in bars and clubs and, just general practicing. And now she's been doing a lot of live streams to help grow her fan base. Now, Beckwith only really has 3 singles at the moment, so she's a relatively new artist on the scene, but I would not be surprised if she is rolling with some pretty high stars near the end of the year, because she is absolutely amazing. She has a really beautiful voice. It's hauntingly beautiful, and it will capture your attention absolutely immediately. And the thing that I love about this artist is her songs feel fresh. It feels like she's not recreated, she's not done a carbon copy of anything. She's created something that is hers, and it feels very contemporary and very new. And she is an artist that you are going to love if you like modern pop music with a country flair. So think a little bit like Taylor Swift, but a little bit more country, and I think you will definitely enjoy her. And the other thing that I love about this artist, and it's just because I love to be able to hear the raw talent behind things, is she sits perfectly in an acoustic number. So you take all kind of the musician and the musicianship away, all the instruments, and you get the raw sound. So something like her single Neon Lights, and it's very acoustic, and you just hear her, and I think it's fantastic. But you will also notice that she sounds great when all the music's back in. So she's got Poppy debut single, which is Not in Love, which is absolutely great, and you can see that she fits into that mold absolutely. And also with everything that she has, her songwriting ability is excellent. Everything she uses, all the music and her vocals, all sit harmoniously together, and you get quite a nice kind of rounded finish when you get to the end of the song. It's not one of those songs that when you get there you're like, I could have used something else, or I'm not sure how I feel about it. You feel quite satisfied with what you've listened to. So obviously I would recommend you guys check out the 3 singles, but if you want to just check out one, then I would check out her latest single, not only because it's her latest, but I also think this is the perfect it's a perfect piece of music to demonstrate her musical ability, and it's called Halfway, and I really enjoyed it, and it's an excellent mix of pop and country.
Awesome. We love a little bit of country vibes here. Right, so my first discovery for this podcast is a band called Gladdy. They were started in the last decade. I know, I love that I can say that. It was literally just like, the late 2010s, but it was a decade ago. Anyways, this indie rock band brings really, really cool 90s vibes. Like, they sort of like, it's almost kind of like, brings you back into like those like American teen movies, or like the teen dramas, like kind of like Dawson's Creek kind of thing. Absolutely love it. Lots of distortion and really great vocals from Augusta Coke. So actually it started off as a duo of like Augusta Coke, who, as I just mentioned, is the vocalist, and she was kind of like the creator of this project and band. And so she started working with Matt Schmelfnig, who's a multi-instrumental artist, and they were soon joined by Ian Farmer and Pat Conaboy. And so then we got this 4-piece going on, and they actually released their debut album in February 2020. It's called Safe Sins, and it is super, super good. Definitely check that out. They do also have a new release out as of just this September. It's called Thank You Card, and I honestly I love it. It's so good. So I would actually almost like start off with their new release, Thank You Card, and then go check out their album Safe Sins. just so good. So good. Definitely check it out.
Sounds awesome. And yeah, way to make everybody feel old, Michelle, by saying last decade as in the 2010s.
Literally talking about like 2 years ago.
That's so depressing. And anyway, so my next feature is also an indie artist, but this is more of a project than a band. And this comes from a Mancunian, and this project is called High Peak. Now, if you guys go and check out this artist, you probably will recognize kind of the vocals, and you might recognize some of the kind of the styles if you are into kind of that sort of kind of synthy pop, like epic sound sort of genre. I can't think, I probably just made that up, but this guy is the same artist behind a project called Ghost of Social Networks, which has received quite a bit of traction, quite a bit of acclaim in the UK. So if you recognize some of the stuff from High Peak, it's because it's the same guy. And the thing that I love about this project is he takes everything from Ghost of Social Networks and then he adds a bit more of a rocky approach to it. So 2020 has seen the release of this project's debut album, and it's called Transition. That has also received some critical acclaim from the likes of Steve Lamacq and Hugh Stevens. And they've kind of said that it's really just an embracing sound. And it absolutely is, but as I just said, it's an abrasive sound, but with that kind of like that rocky indie vibe to it. And it's a rocky indie vibe that I think you find in Mancunian bands. And I'm not saying it's Oasis-esque, but from listening to a lot of Mancunian bands, I feel like there is this kind of this indie rocky vibe that is very, very much at home in Manchester, and you don't find it anywhere else. And I love that this song or this artist has characterized that in their music. And then the other thing I love about all the songs that are there is it's the sort of feeling that I expect you get from a band, but it's one person. So that's either down to the recording or the quality of the musician themselves, and either way, it is absolutely amazing. So if you want to check this person out, obviously I would recommend you go and listen to the whole album, but if you're looking for just one song, then I would maybe check out Are You Okay, as I feel this embodies everything that Peak Low is kind of going for with this new project. And it just generally is 4 minutes and 36 seconds of indie amazingness. So definitely go and check that out. For a bit more diversity, to hear excellent use of bass lines and lots of effects on guitars and keys, then check out Nothing, Nothing, Nothing. And if you want something a little bit slower, then you can try something called Credit Card. So there's a lot of different things going on there. And Michelle, I'm not going to lie, I think you would like some of this stuff as well, because there's a lot of that kind of new synth indie rock, interplayed in all the music. So yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, he's a very talented artist, and I really, really, really did enjoy this. Lots of unique things going on, and as Hugh Stevens said, and Steve Lamacq, it's a very embracing sound.
Yeah, no, I do really love synth.
No, I think some of the stuff, not all the stuff is synth, but there is synth in there. I think you'd enjoy it.
Oh no, don't worry. I don't just listen to keyboards.
I mean, you could do.
I could do, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I just love it when it's incorporated into music. Like, I don't know. Sorry, we're just gonna go into a little bit about me real quick. Something that I discovered watching that Ryan Gosling movie, Drive, and there's a band in it called College Hero. I think that's what they're called.
I'll take your word for it. I'm sure I've seen it, but I can't remember.
Yeah, something like that. I was just really bad. I can't remember. But they've got, it is College Hero, and they've got a song called Real Human Being. And I was like, I fell in love with that song. And like, they're that sort of thing. It's kind of like synth pop. And it just like, I was like, my whole world was blown open. And I was like, I love this. Why do we not incorporate more synth into our music? Like, anyways.
I think there was just talking about synths there. I think there was obviously you had, 80s music is full of synths, and then sort of the 90s happened, and then the noughties happened, the synths sort of disappeared, and then all of a sudden, out with of pop, synth has become a lot more popular and a lot more integrated, because I think it just, it adds so much, as you say, it adds so much kind of character to songs. It picks up all the low adds in high, adds in chords, adds in ambience.
When you say like out with the pop, and I know like The Weeknd's not strictly pop, but I mean, like I think The Weeknd's got like a new song out that, you know, brings that sort of like 80s like synth vibe into it. Now I can't remember what it's called either at the minute, but like, you know, so I think it's making a comeback, and I'm so here for it. Like, anyways, sorry for that digression. So my second artist actually also incorporates a bit of synth.
Oh, there's a surprise there.
Yeah, who would have thought? No, it's Isla June. And Isla June is actually the stage name for an LA singer-songwriter, Jenna Maranga. And they have such a beautiful, soft voice that mixes really well with the synth that they bring in. And they like also incorporate like a lot of guitar and like other instruments as well. And it just creates these really dreamlike songs that just sort of, I don't know, they sort of like just take you away a little bit. And Isla June has been making a name for themselves already massively. So I don't know if there's anybody who, I've already talked about teen dramas today, but again, don't know if any of you are familiar with Riverdale or like any other CW shows, but if you are, you might have actually already heard Isla June's music because it's been featured on Riverdale specifically, and I think a couple of other CW shows. As well, actually, they've already been getting some spots onto those like Spotify curated playlists. So like the ones that are actually like done by Spotify. So they've been sort of flying off there. So I would definitely suggest checking them out. I think my favorite that I was listening to actually just like a minutes ago. Well, I say a couple minutes ago, like probably like 20 minutes ago now. Was Thought You'd Stay, which is actually Isla June's new song that came out in August. But as well, Strange Times, Dark Days is super, super epic. So those are my two favorites. I would definitely check those out. Isla June also has another song that came out in 2020 called Golden, which was also pretty dope. So yeah, something a little bit softer, something a little bit more dreamlike, but just really, really great vocals, really great music.
It is now time for our topic of the show, and as mentioned at the start, we are going to talk about something that I think is quite important, and I also think is quite relevant to today. And the reason why I picked this topic was largely based on a lot of events that are happening in the UK at the moment, which I'll give a bit of background behind. But the topic is how important is the artist or creative in society, and this can be whether they're important economically, culturally, socially, politically, symbolically, whatever it is. This is what we're going to talk about. And obviously, it's a huge topic, so if you guys are interested in contributing, please hit us up on the social medias. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because in the UK, just like everywhere else in the world, we've been facing a COVID-19 pandemic, and there has been a huge range of consequences for having to deal with this pandemic, whether this is economics or cultural or social, and this has had effect on so many walks of life. And the reason why this is quite a relevant thing to talk about now is in an economic kind of viewpoint. We've had a job retention scheme in the UK, but the job retention scheme has helped a lot of people. Some people have fallen through the cracks, as you do with a lot of legislation that's passed. But a new job retention scheme was announced in October to replace the one that we'd had for the last 4 or 5 months. And the problem with this is it was almost announced by the government that they wouldn't be able to support creative jobs that weren't able to function at the moment. So things like events or things like gigs, because they couldn't have them because of the pandemic. They were basically saying those jobs are no longer viable and people need to retrain. And I'm not saying they said that for definite, but that was kind of the message that came out. And I'm not gonna sit here and argue politically whether the measures they put in or whether this line of legislation is right. That's not what I'm here. this is just the reason why I thought this was important to talk about. Because I do feel like the artist's role or the creator's role in society is 100% viable in not only economic terms, but in social and cultural and political terms. It is definitely not something that people should be told, oh, you need to go and retrain. And there's several reasons for this, but the first reason, I think, is because of the entertainment value behind it. And people might think that's a bit weird, me bringing it up, but if you think about it, during any time that we're not working or we're not socializing, we rely on things like Netflix, or we rely on the BBC or music or radio stations, and these are all under that band of creative. And if they are not viable, then we take that away, then what are we then relying on for entertainment? And I think that is something that people, and maybe the government when they said that didn't maybe necessarily think about that. If you remove all these viable creative or non-viable creative industries, you remove everything that people get lost in, whether it's a TV show, whether it's music. And I think that means that it definitely is viable, because people need it for not only for entertainment, but also for kind of a tangent to that is, entertainment has such a responsibility for things like mental health and general stimulus, because people will get lost in whatever they're finding entertaining. So if there's a musician you like, for example, you will get lost in their music and it'll distract you from maybe your job or things that are making you stressed, so therefore you feel better mentally, that it helps you. Some people also use music and creatives industries to tackle like emotional things that they're having to go through. And that has got nothing to do with economics, but that is so important for a creative industry to be able to hold those things for the people who are engaging in them. So to ask people to kind of step away from that and not do it anymore, I think is a really, really dangerous really dangerous thing to suggest. Michelle, have you got any thoughts on what I've said so far?
I have a lot of thoughts.
Well, I know you have a lot of thoughts, and they can't all be about synths.
No, it's shockingly my brain works in many ways, not just around synth music. But no, basically, I just think I think the whole thing is really baffling, personally. But what I just find really, really strange is that you've hit on a lot of important things, like it's entertainment. If you think about lockdown, what were people doing? They were watching, like you said, Netflix or the BBC, or I know I had my Spotify on all the time. It's just we were listening to music, we were consuming things done by people in creative industries, and it's not even just the front-facing creatives. Think to produce a show, think of how many people go into that. Anyways, so yeah, there's definitely that side of it where it's where we consume creative material all the time. But the other thing that I just always think is really, really interesting is that as somebody who's an outsider to the UK, in some ways, one of the big exports and big things that's built really strongly into British culture is creative industries. Think about artists like Adele and the Beatles. Everybody knows that they're British. They're icons, along with so many other music artists and that sort of thing. Same with TV shows and films and theater, and the West End in London is so famous, you know what I mean? And so it's just it's really strange, this idea that it's something that is so has such a big cultural impact in at least the UK. Suddenly it's just seen as not viable, and it's but the Globe Theatre and Shakespeare, that's creative industry. I don't know what you're going on about. You know what I mean? These are things that the UK is just known for. So that whole idea that it doesn't matter, or it's not important, just really baffles me. And it's not just the UK where it's culture, these sort of creative influences influence the culture. You think about America, Hollywood. How closely associated is the US with Hollywood? of when you're thinking about like the stereotypes and that sort of thing. And like, I mean, like that's the same for like loads and loads of other countries and that sort of thing as well. Like they have these big creative industries that are like icons of their culture. And so it's just sort of like, it just kind of like baffles me in this idea that like creatives and the people who actually like put the work in to actually like produce these things and like to create these things like are suddenly viewed as like not viable, because like they are like so much of our identity, so much of like our pastime relies on the work that these people put in. And so it's just like that whole like side of it just really like baffles me. Like I kind of know why it's happening a little bit, but like because I think there's become like a little bit of a push for like science and technology in terms of the economy. But it's to me it's silly, because it's like the creative industries in the UK actually bring in so much money and so much tourism, like that it just I honestly I don't understand it. But yeah, like I mean it's like I mean basically you kind of covered like a lot there, in the sense that like these are the things that like we use to get through. Like how many people do I know who have like a playlist that they cry to, you know, when they're having a bad day, and they just like go to sad day music, and then they're just like sitting there crying to like ballads and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Like it is the stuff that gets us through. I have it like for when I go and play like football, I've got a pump up playlist that I listen to, because I'm like gotta get hyped up. Like this is the thing, is like we use it to get through our like the challenges in our life, we use it to get through our days, like, you know, like we were having a conversation a while ago about like pubs and bars actually, and we were saying that like some pubs and bars have stopped playing music so that people aren't like shouting at each other and therefore, you know, talking moistly on each other, because they're like spitting at each other when they talk. And how weird is it to go into a bar and there's no music? Like it feels weird. But like this is what I mean, is like it's so entrenched in our daily lives. And it's the same like when you go into like stores. Like, because have you noticed like whenever you go shopping, like either in a mall or even just like in like a normal like store, there's always music playing, like pretty much always. And you notice it when it's not. You're like, oh, it's weirdly quiet in here, because there's no, like, you know what I mean? And it's like these are the things that they're just so like entrenched in our lives, that it's like we notice it when it's gone, because it's kind of like just this constant like background, you know what I mean? And so it's just sort of like to say that like something that like we interact with literally every day, whether we mean to or not, is like not viable or not important, or like, you know, can't make money or like help the economy and stuff like that, like literally blows my mind.
I do agree. It is completely, that's exactly when I was thinking about this. It is so ingrained in everything you do. You know, everybody listens to music. Everybody, you know, hears or watches or does something that a creative has created. And, you know, there's two things that I wanted to kind of touch on. And the first, I think, is probably, you know, I think it's probably the elephant in the room. It's the reason why they've said, oh, well, it's not viable. And it's because, you know, the economic sector of it, because people can't go to gigs, people can't experience live things. It essentially means that they're not making money, and that's why they're saying, right, you need to go and retrain and do stuff. But the thing that I think they forget is the actual entertainment industry. At least I only know this in the UK, but the entertainment industry in the UK brings billions, you know, because that entertainment industry touches bars, touches hotels, touches weddings, touches, you know, TV, it touches you know, news broadcasting, it touches podcasts, it just touches everything. So, you know, when they say, oh, well, it's not viable, I'm like, it's only not viable because you're not letting people allow it to be viable. But then the other thing, kind of going back to the question about how important is the artist in society, and obviously we mentioned that with entertainment and the fact that people can, you know, engage with it mentally, and it helps people on a, you know, a very fundamental level. There's also a personal aspect, I think, in this for anybody who is actually doing music or being creative, making things. Because when you see other people do something creative, then you're empowered to do it yourself, you're influenced to do it. And, being creative is a really good thing to stimulate your mental health in terms of keeping your brain active and working and functioning, in a really scientific kind of viewpoint here. It keeps your brain active. People talk about brain training and growing your brain, and playing music is one of the best things you can ever do to engage your brain. Learning how to play an instrument, it's all muscle memory and remembering how things sound and what things should sound like, and does it sound like this, or it's all kind of encompassed in that. And so going back to that question is, how important is that artist? Well, that artist is so important on a personal level, but it's also important because you can engage with other people. People are interested in music. People are interested in TV shows. Look at all the things on YouTube that you have, and like What Culture will do. 10 reasons why this Doctor Who episode was lame, or 10 reasons why the Daleks are the best monster, or something weird like that. Or wrestling's a huge thing. People are interested. That's another form of entertainment that people live off that, because they live off the entertainment that is there. And but people get, as you say, they get interest in that, then they do their own thing, and it's all just as a really personal kind of thing, I think.
But yeah, and so one of the things that you sort of reminded me of when you were talking about how listening to music and your favorite artists and that sort of thing can inspire you to pick up an instrument and continue working. It just sort of well, it's two things. One, think about how many people during lockdown were I'm gonna start playing an instrument. I know a couple of people who started picking up guitar, or got back into playing piano, and they hadn't played piano in years, just because they're sort of well, I have the time, and it's it's good for you, but it sort of reminded me as well a little bit of I dabbled in music when I was younger, so I grew up.
Was it synths by any chance?
It should have been. I probably might have stuck with it, to be honest. No, I used to play violin, and then I went through my emo phase as a child. And I decided that I wanted to learn to play guitar because I wanted to form my own emo band. None of this happened. I did actually. yeah, super hardcore. This 13-year-old with a dream. But anyways, I didn't form my own emo band. To everybody's disappointment, I'm sure.
What would you have called it?
I literally actually have no idea. This is how well thought out it was. It was, I'm gonna have an emo band, and then it was that was it. But I did actually take guitar lessons. But the thing is that's what I mean though, is I wanted to form an emo band because at the time I was really into emo music. I was listening to Panic at the Disco and Fall Out Boy and the Academy Is and all these emo bands, and I was I want to do this. This is me. I will be Paramore. You know what I mean? And so it's and that's the thing is so the songs that I was learning on the guitar as well, because when you're learning an instrument, you learn all the chords or whatever, and then to practice, they usually give you music that you like. And so I got a mixture of Green Day and the Beatles, and my guitar teacher actually was really dope. He was bring in a song, and just a CD or whatever, and tell me what song you want, and I'll listen to it and I'll write up music for it, because that's incredible. I could never do that with any instrument. I could never listen to a song and be right, it's these chords, it's this, you know what I mean? The amount of talent in these people is phenomenal. And so he would basically write out the chords for some of my favorite songs. So I got to play my favorite songs and pretend that I was gonna have an emo band. But you know what I mean? And that's the thing is so, and lots of kids go through that, think about all the kids who the stereotype of the kid who takes up drums or whatever, and their parents are why did we let him do this? But that's the thing is because they get so invested in a music genre or whatever, and it inspires them, and they're I want to do this, and yeah, all right, fine, they might never make it to the big time, or they might only take a handful of lessons for a year, but it's the kind of thing that it still helps develop that brain. It still helps develop that passion. It helps learning an instrument and learning music it does develop your brain, and it helps, like, it just helps with everything. Like, and that's the thing, is like, that's what these people are doing. And it's not just with music. Like, there's so many art, like, I mean, think about all the people who go to the theater or whatever, and they see like this amazing like actor or whatever, and they're like, I want to do that, I want to be that. Like, and I think it's so important in your life, like, even if, like I said, you're not going to make it to the big time or whatever, it's so important to have that like dream and that passion and that goal. And even if it just becomes like a casual hobby, that's so important, like, for your mental health and for, like, you know, just being a well-rounded person. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And something that I was just thinking when you were talking about that your guitar teacher would listen to it on a CD, and I know people don't really have CDs anymore, but another thing that the creatives do, and another thing that artists do, and this is fundamental. We're talking about how, like, there's a bit of a drive for, we need scientific advancement, but think of the development that creatives push forward. I mean, take Zoom, for example. Now, Zoom's been around for a while, but Zoom, if you've been invested in Zoom shares last year and you look at your shares now, you'd be pretty rich, because Zoom all of a sudden exploded. And then because it exploded, it's got better because people are using it. You know, it's just like streaming. Streaming has, you know, advanced so much in recent years because you have gamers who stream, and that's a creative art. People who have things on their channel and they have like little sizzle videos and all this, and then because they do that, someone then develops something that makes that easier, and then you're constantly advancing technology. And you know, I could see probably a lot of scientists go, well, that's not really scientific advancement. I'm like, but it is, because we're all improving the quality of things that we use. The quality of video improves, the quality of audio improves, the quality of internet improves, because there's demand for it. And a lot of that is driven by creative industries. And, you know, I think that's a really, really important part of, you know, as you say, going forward. And my phone is deciding to ring, so that's good. But yeah, I think that is a really, really important part of just the artist and the creative, is helping to drive forward that technological advancement. And then something else I was thinking about just then was, I know I didn't really want to talk about politics, but I also think like things like music and things like video and things like, you know, you think about how advertisement, which is done by creators, created by people who know how to make videos and put the right audio in and say the right thing at the right time, you know, look how far adverts go. You know, take, for example, like compare the market. You know, they had that advert, the meerkat thing, and that just exploded, and everybody loved that. But now when you see that, you associate with that. But you know, look how far that goes in, and all they need to do is put a picture of that annoying meerkat thing on, and then you you think of their website. But music and creative things like that can reach to places that maybe people necessarily can't. You think of, in a political kind of way, a demonstration may have some music, a demonstration may have some signs, some imagery, and you know, that whole saying that an image can, you know, says 1,000 words or something. Creatives can bridge a gap that maybe you can't necessarily bridge yourself. You know, music can get somewhere. So
that harks back to an earlier episode that we did about music and protests and political movements. So
go and check that out.
If you're interested in that, check it out. Yeah. But yeah, no, exactly. Like, that's the thing, is like it's literally goes back to sort of what we were saying earlier, just about how it's so ingrained in everything that we do. And it's basically like this symbiotic relationship with technology and with, you know, politics and like life and just everything, because, you know, when there's the demand for things, like, as well, like, think about like how many times you see something in a movie or like see something in like a TV show or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're kind of like, I want that, you know, like I'm not even talking about like, you know, like crazy like hoverboards or whatever, like, you know, I'm talking about like sometimes it's just like fashion. Like, why do you think product placement's such a thing, you know? But yeah, so no, I totally agree. I think it's just like, it's one of those things where it's just, it can bridge a gap, and it does link all of these things in our lives together, whether you realize it or not, like, you know?
I guess.
What I'd like, sorry, just what I'd like almost be interested to know is like for people who think it's not, because like I realize that we're sort of like we're almost kind of like talking, like we're preaching to the choir, you know what I mean? Like we've created like our little echo chamber. Like we obviously both think creative industries are really important because we love it and we love the scene and we love it all. And I feel like I'm not sure, but I feel like a lot of people listening to this are probably of the same mind. And so what I really want to know is I want to know somebody who's like, nah, I think creative industry is like, I think it's done. Like, I want to know like why they think that, or like what, you know, because it's like, we've just laid out a whole bunch of arguments and I'm curious as to what the other side is saying, you know?
Yeah, you're right. This whole argument we've done, I think, is obviously, as you say, it's maybe a little one-sided because this is what we both think. So we are definitely open to hear what other people think. You know, even if you agree with us, but you actually say, well, actually, there's some real reasons why we could argue the artist's place in society is not as important as you say, then please, you know, let us know. You know, let us know your thoughts. You know, we're not here to pander anything to anybody. It's just a discussion, and neither of us are the sort of people who are just going to go, no, you are wrong, because
oh yeah, no, definitely not wrong all the time. So
I mean, I can testify to that. I think Michelle is wrong all the time. But yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll wrap our conversation up there, and if please do get in touch. You can get in touch obviously on our socials and via emails. Let us know what you think about this topic, and let us know if you think we're wrong. You know, we are more than happy to be proven wrong. It's actually good to be proven wrong because we can have a good discussion about it. So let us know what you think. And that was our topic for this week's show, guys. So if you want to contribute and you want to let us know what you think, please get in touch, as I just said, with our socials. And it is now time for our first song of the show. And this one comes from an artist known as Critical Mass. And they are an emerging artist, and it's a really great pleasure to be able to feature them on the show. And this is one of their 2 songs that they have released really recently, I believe on the 2nd of October. And this is called Infinite. It's a great pleasure to have this on, and it's a little bit different than anything we've played on the show before. It's a little bit more electric, but hopefully you guys enjoy. So this is Infinite by Critical Mass.
All right, and now we're going to get to the interview part of the podcast. So today we've actually got Clint Slate with us. So Clint Slate, how are you doing today?
I'm quite fine, thank you. What about you?
Yeah, doing all right. A little rainy, getting through everything. But yeah, so first off, what we usually do is we usually ask our artists to kind of like describe their music, describe their like musical journey a little bit. So do you want to just go ahead and tell us, like, for anybody who's not familiar, like what it is that you do, what kind of music you do, how you do it, that kind of thing?
I'm mainly a singer and a guitar player, but I do play a lot of instruments. And I've been working on some albums for 5 years under this name. And the first one was a mix of electro things and rock. And I listen to all things, like Massive Attack and Deftones and Frank Sinatra and stuff like that. So it's all mixed up in what I do. I do not really believe in genres. I believe you have to switch. You have to go with your emotions in the same, follow. I don't know. In the course of the same day, I would not be in the same mood. So I guess my music should not be in the same mood either. So my first album was quite dark because I was in a dark place at this time. I created Clint Slate. That's not my real name. It's a moniker because I wanted to have a fresh start at the time. So a clean slate, and it became my second persona at the time, a character. Behind it, I can do whatever I want, and I really like it. So it's liberating. My real name is Greg, by the way. So pleased to meet you. So we are pleased to meet you, Clint and I. My schizophrenia. For a moment, I used to introduce myself as Clint Slate, and it worked for me for quite some time, for a few years. But right now, I feel like it's the right time for me to reconvene with myself in a way, and to be whole. So I am Greg, and I am Clint, and this Clint character is the guy I use on stage and in the English-speaking world also, because let's face it, Greg Michel is not very attractive for a stage name. So I wanted something that was more rock and roll, and everybody does that. So it's quite cool. And at the same time, I can behave in another way. I can have visual aspects that are very intriguing because I have this name, and because this name looks like a clean slate, it sticks in your mind. So this very long answer to say that I have made 2 records under this name. The first one, I also did a theater show because I wanted to do something else. So it's a mix of rock and electro and theater, and with voiceovers and video projected and stuff like that. And as my style, I don't really know. I tend to call that broad rock. It's doesn't mean anything in a way, but just tell you that I just try to push my own boundaries. I don't want to write the same song over and over again. It would be a waste of time. So I just want to create things, and I want to create concepts. And I don't know, if I had to find names, I would say that I really wanted to make music because of people I grew up with, like U2 and The Police and Queen, for instance. The 3 big names of the 80s were the guys I discovered when I was a kid, and were guys that were never doing the same song twice. So I thought, okay, let's do that. And I still do that. So maybe you won't find exactly Freddie Mercury and Bono and Sting in what I do, but they're here somewhere. They're influencing, just like listening to Jeff Buckley in the 90s gave me the urge to scream my lungs out and express something and be faithful to it. Just like Robert Plant at the same time, just like I really like to listen to The Weeknd right now because, I don't know, I relate to it. And anyway, it's way too long, but the point is the music I do is the music I do. If you like Massive Attack and Frank Sinatra and Metallica, welcome. What the hell? Come and listen.
Absolutely come listen. I mean, if I absolutely love diversity, and Michelle probably hates it when I say that word because I say it all the time. Diversity in music and multiple influence is just absolutely amazing. So
like a catchphrase now.
It is like my catchphrase.
you should make a T-shirt with it.
I should make a T-shirt
and set it.
True music diversity is the best. There we go. You heard it here, people. You heard it here.
And create a hashtag. That's very important.
Yes, absolutely. Needs to create the hashtag. But yeah, I mean, describing your music like that as something that has multi-influence and draws from multiple sources is just amazing. And while you create your music, obviously you're in different mindsets and you're in different kind of thoughts. Obviously it's a very creative process and it's very very true to your emotions. But during the lockdown periods that we've all sadly had to enjoy, you released over 50 covers of music, and a lot of them were kind of stripped back, all just acoustic and your voice. But I was just interested to know what the thought process in deciding to do that was, and how you decided the covers that you wanted to do. Was it just based on what you felt that day? Because there's a huge array of different musicians that you chose to cover.
Actually, when the lockdown hit in Paris, I was supposed to play in a huge show in Paris, that I'm in for a year now. So I wasn't even on a plateau. I was just. It was growing and growing. It was exciting. It was 1,000 people in the venue each night and stuff like that. And suddenly, everything shuts down, and all my projects are shut down, and I'm feeling shut down. I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know why I was waking up in the morning at this precise moment. So I decided to do what I do best and make some music. I didn't want to write at the moment because it was kind of a writer's block. I didn't want to talk about the lockdown. I didn't want to talk about depressive things, and I didn't want to feel obligated to do it. So I thought, okay, what can I do other than that? And I wasn't in my studio. I just had an old rotten guitar in my computer. So I thought, what can I do with this bloody piece of wood? Because it's really cheap and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's taken apart in the project because I couldn't play all the things I wanted on it. I couldn't really make it sound the way I used to like it. But it gave me something, and it gave me a battle with it. I had to struggle to make it sound something, coherent and attractive, to say the least. So I started to take songs that I wanted to hear and I wanted to play and express. And the first ones I thought were about the lockdown remotely. So the first one I did was Stuck in a Moment You Can Get Out Of by U2, because I always liked this song and I thought, yeah, I'm stuck in this bloody moment. And I did Inside by Steelskin for the same theme, and then I switched. So I came to The Police, Bring On the Night, and Rihanna and Aerosmith, and I just thought, okay, I'll do whatever I want and whatever suits me at this precise moment. So I tried to again, no genre. So it was just soul music, old stuff, new stuff, dance, hard rock, heavy metal, jazz. Okay, it's just me. I wanted to, for years, I wanted to sing, I was born by the river. Okay, that's nice. Let's keep this one. But at the same time, I wanted to scream the head out on Living on the Edge by Aerosmith. And that's cool. And I still think Rihanna's got really great songs. So there's no problem with it. My only problem at the time was that I had one microphone, one lousy guitar, and so it was just okay. Let's do something with it. And at the same time, 50 songs, so for 50 days. And I tried to do lockdown versions of other covers with friends of mine, where we sent videos back and forth, and we did "Gimme Shelter" by the Rolling Stones, "Dreams" by Fleetwood Mac, and some Eurythmics, and some "Golden Brown" by the Stranglers with the trumpet solo and stuff like that. And it was all very improvised, but it was very interesting because we all connected to it, and as musicians and as humans, with the people seeing us and enjoying it with us.
One question I did want to ask before we kind of move on to the new album, you have another set of songs which are also covers, and I believe you took they were a live take, and you've got things like a cover of "Believe" by Radioactive, and then you've got kind of a mashup with like The Prodigy in there. I just wanted to know, how different was it putting that kind of set list together against deciding your 10 songs for your confinement LP?
Well, these covers were part of a project called Dim the Lights, and I play many instruments, and I wanted for years to do covers and playing everything. And so the Dim the Lights were live takes of me playing all the instruments. So that was a huge amount of work. And I chose the songs basically considering the music arrangements that I could make of them. So, for instance, I did "Believer" by Imagine Dragons, but as I changed the instrumentation, I changed the feeling of it. For The Prodigy, I'm a huge fan of "The Fat of the Land," and I wanted to be able to do a mashup, a medley of The Prodigy, but with nothing electronic. So it's just guitar, bass, percussions, voices, and stuff like that. So it was a pain in the back to create things like this. But
it's excellent. It's absolutely excellent. I love it. So.
Oh, thank you. I really love this one because nobody ever thought of doing this, and now I know why. But it was very interesting to do, because it's not that it's electronic. Do this with a guitar. What the hell, And the other way around. So this project was much more time consuming, because for a full. I used to play maybe 5 or 6 instruments, so it means 5 or 6 video takes, and where I do everything, so it's quite long. It's very long to do, and then I had to edit the video, and everything was really live. I didn't want to mess it around, and screw that. So, but it was very interesting, and I really liked it. There is a Radiohead cover of Subterranean Alien Homesick, and I really like it because I thought, okay, that's Radiohead, let's use everything but guitar. I still had one guitar, but I have a fretless bass, I have a toy piano, a glockenspiel, a ukulele, an accordion, and a huge bottle of water as a drum, and it works. And I really like this version actually. But you can feel that we are a lot in my crazy brain. There's more than just Clint and Greg. I have an army of minions all screaming at the same time. Bloody! So it's quite down.
No, that's really cool, because that's quite a creative way of sort of doing that. And I was just wondering, because you did so many covers, was there one that really stuck out for you that you just really, really enjoyed, or that you found really challenging, maybe?
Actually, there are I find there are two types of songs, whether covers that you wrote, is the ones that you like to hear and the ones that you like to play. And sometimes you can have both. But actually, when I take my guitar, I know I always come back to Here Comes the Rain Again by Eurythmics. I don't really know why, but just this first chord, and it gives me something, and I really love to play it every time I can. It's hypnotic. At the same time, I really love what I do when I do play Grace by Jeff Buckley, because I love the song, but it's so difficult. You can't do that, having tea with friends and let's do Grace. No, fuck it. You have to be prepared for it. You have to. There's a mindset. There's a dark room and fog and stuff like that. and I think things you have it from it's from time to time it changes. I always play. Actually now for 6 months, I don't know why, and actually now it got some sense, but I've been playing a Van Halen song all the time, Running with the Devil, and because it was quite fun. I really loved this riff and the way of singing of David Lee Roth, and I thought, okay, maybe I can try to play and sing it at the same time, and I play it all the time. And now it's kind of a tribute, but I just wanted to play it, just like I just love noodling around with Whole Lotta Love or stuff like that, because it's the essence of live music. I won't even call that rock and roll, because it's more than that. It's just live music. It's just sounds. And if I was to play electronic music, that would be cool too, maybe, because it would be just a way of having a trance with something, a vibration.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like there's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of you and obviously Greg and Clint Slate that go into the creation of the music. So what I want to touch on now is you have a new album coming, and it is called Dragons, and we've listened to a bit of it. So thank you for sharing that with us. But I really want to just ask, because it is very different from a lot of the other stuff that you've done, which, having spoken to you about your influences and how your music's created, there's no surprise, because your influences are always changing. But I just was wondering if you could walk us through how this album was created, and maybe some of the things that helped create some of the songs that you have on the album.
Yeah, of course, sure. Actually, Dragons came just after the lockdown, because during the lockdown I had a schedule. I had my songs that I put out, and I had some things in my mind actually to occupy myself. When the lockdown ended, I found myself with nothing to do, and so I thought I need to find a new project. I didn't want to go 50 covers was well enough. I wanted to do something fresh. So I thought I remembered an idea I had years ago about the cut-up technique. The cut-up is a literary technique created in 1920 or something. It's a surrealist take where you write sentences, or you use newspapers and you cut sentences in that. You put it in a bowl, and then what you take out of the bowl, you glue on a new page, and you have new sentences, new images. It's mainly nonsense, it's surrealist, but it's a way of changing your approach of writing. And I thought, okay, this time I want to write like that. I want to be surprised by what comes out of all this. So now, you don't have to take bowls. You can use generators on the internet. So I found some, and I decided I wanted to do something very spontaneous. So I just grabbed my guitar, and as soon as I had a riff, a melody or something, I recorded it, gave it a name, an abstract name, and send it to a rhythm section that wanted to be part of it and see what would happen. And at that point, no one knew what would happen, so it was just, okay, I have A minor, G stuff, it's 100 BPM, and it's called Cash, do what you want. Okay. So, no, not do what you want, it was send me 3 takes, max, tops, and be as spontaneous as possible. Get out of your own, box. Do something, but not what you would usually do. And so I received drum takes and bass takes, and I had my own guitar takes, and I didn't know what to do with it at first. And then I started to massive attack it. So I started to edit and thought, oh, this bass track is amazing, but it would be better there, and this drum and stuff, and so the name, for instance, I had a melody that I called Cash because I had the humming in my head watching a documentary on Johnny Cash. So I called it Cash. So when I wanted to have lyrics for this melody, I just typed Cash in the online generator. And bruising it for hours, I found something written like Ghost America, and then I thought, that's it, Ghost America, love it, what's in this? And then I chose words and picked sentences in there and sang it, and it just became a song. And so these tracks and bits of everything became 9 songs that generated themselves, actually, and that I just sculpted, and that was freaking liberated. I was freaking liberated to do that because I had nothing, I had just sounds, and for the first time I had the feeling that I was outdoing myself in a way that I wasn't. I'm a total control freak, so to let the songs create themselves and work with me instead of me molding things, from 100% in my control and stuff like that, was very interesting and very refreshing. And so all these songs are very different than what I would have done before, because I didn't compose them with my guitar in my hands. It was just a melody. And for instance, the first one I did was the one called Dark is Wire, and it was just 2 chords, maybe 3 other chords for something like a chorus. Send it to the guys, and what came back was 3 parts of drums that I put everything in Cubase, except that I didn't put them at the right place to start, and so it created a boom, ka-boom, ka-boom, something that was uneven and at the same time that was beautiful. So it's chance. It's really chance. It's because these 2 parts were not calibrated at the same time that it gave me this. It gave me the sound. It gave me the images. It gave me the song. Actually.
Oh, that is amazing. I've heard people kind of making it up as they go along, and then they end up with something. But the complete complexity in each song, and there's a lot of depth in a lot of the different tunes. The fact that kind of came together by itself, just by something being here, and then you kind of transition into it, going, actually that works better over here, and move it. That's such an amazing process to create music, because it's all about the feeling.
Just like the same song, The Dark is Where, was very interesting because it was the first one where I thought, okay, that can work. I can have a song with it. From that, it was just saying bits of things and sounds, but you didn't have a skeleton for anything. And Dark is Where came from this guitar melody, but at the same time, the bass player sent me a lyrical bass melody, and a groovy bass track. And so when I put it and the uneven drum tracks and stuff, it gave me this Massive Attack thing I was talking about. I tend to listen a lot to Massive Attack, actually, and it gave me a way to enter a song and to meet a song. That's how I would put it, because I could have done lots of things with those tracks, but it gave me a landscape. I saw it, and trying to put it into a song, I heard the middle eight, I heard it. So it was very interesting and very. All the songs got a life that was different because all the sounds were different and all the influences were different and all the. We could have done 15 songs because we had enough material to do more than that. But after the 9 I had completed, I realized I was gonna repeat myself. It was just I don't know how to put it, but every project I had was an epiphany. I always had in an hour everything. The first album Before the Dark when was it? In 15. I knew I had to do it. I knew how it was gonna sound, and I did it. And the second one, I knew I wanted to record it live on YouTube in a single take from a theater with a full band, a choir, a jazz saxophone, and an accordion. And everybody was saying, "You're crazy, you're insane, it won't work, you can't have all that and record it in a single take." And I thought, that's the point. That's because it's impossible, that it's exciting. And we did it in 3 months, actually, with only 8 rehearsals, and not everybody had played the songs, and it was maybe the most stressful moment of all my life, but that's the high point. It was the stressful moment of all my life, and it was amazing because it's been done. Mm-hmm. Now I've done it. Now I have overcome this, and it sounds great, and everything worked. And even if it didn't work during the time, it was human. I always relate to this human factor that I wanted to convey with it. And so for this one, it's the same thing. When I had this first song, this first door that I could enter with Darkest Wire, I thought, okay, I have it. Now I see it. Now I don't have the songs now, but I know I will have them. And when I had 9, I realized, okay, I will start to repeat myself. I know it. I know it's been 2 months. I know I've been focused too long. I know I'm gonna take the easy way out. And I didn't want to do that. So I thought 9 is good enough. Why the hell would I do 15 where they are less good than the others? So I thought, okay, let's do this. But as I'm a bit of a fool, I decided to do 9 videos, homemade in the same style, because I thought, what the hell? Never done that. Now I know why. It's a constant with me. I will do things and I think, well, nobody does this. Now I know why nobody does this, but at the same time I have to. And it's the same thing with the songs. I'm French, so my accent may sometimes slip, when I sing. And I know on the first song that is rap and urban, my accent is not, you can say that I'm French in this one. But at the same time, there are a lot of first takes in the whole album, because that was the point. Because I was still looking for the song when I was recording the tracks. And I tried to redo the rap takes, and it didn't work because you lost the feeling. So I had to choose whether I could have the feeling and have it could be sincere and honest, and maybe with flaws, or have it perfectly done and just too clean, and clinic. So I thought, well, fuck it. I will do it my way, and I will keep the first tracks and deal with it, because maybe you'll find something with it.
Well, and it's also, I think that's really interesting as well, because like with French rap, I think French rap is so iconic. Like it's got such a unique sound and that sort of thing. And part of it is just the accent and the language and that sort of thing. And so I think that kind of like lends itself probably a little bit to it as well, because like I always think it's such a unique thing. And so I like the accent on French rap and that sort of thing. I think it's quite cool. So I really liked it. Like, so.
Cool.
But yeah, so I just want to say thanks so much for taking some time to sit down and talk to us about your music and about your processes. Learned a lot about what you do and how things came to be. It's a lot of incredible hard work and really interesting methods went into creating everything. And it's really fascinating just listening to you talk about it. So thank you for sitting and talking with us. I was just wondering, do you want to, just for our listeners so they can get their hands on it as soon as possible, do you want to let us know when the album's coming out? And
so the album will be out in the digital world on January 4 next year, so I can't wait. I should issue 1 or 2 singles before that. Now that I have the videos, I can. And I think the first single and one of the catchiest songs in the album will be next, I think. Am I right?
Yes,
I am right. And so this one is called the 6th Trip Plan, and I wanted to do in my mind it's kind of a police song. It's quite. It was intended to be a reggae at the beginning, and it finished like me. So it's just a mix of things. I mean, I put bottleneck in it and country, and at the same time the guitar melody, if you're looking for it, that generated the whole song is in the middle 8, but it's got nothing to do with the rest of the song. So. And huge kudos to the bass player and the drum player Francesco and Louison that played on this one and that created something that wasn't there. We just created a song from thin air, and that's very you can't beat that feeling. But just thank you for having me and for listening to me and for encouraging all the indie artists out there. Very important.
Well, it was an absolute pleasure, and just echoing what Michelle said. Thank you for joining us, and we're going to listen to one of your new songs now.
Hypothesized. The trainer's captain, double bluff fundraising, revoiced men, privacy, double digit seat, double the strange to bind the freedom. When any emotion stops screaming, people and sizes standard travel in the vector matrix, double glazing double breadcrumb between Spanish horses. Spanish horses challenge the last day. When's the last day? That's the 6th Street Band. The 6th Street Band.
All right, guys, thanks so much for listening today. And remember, if you've got any thoughts on anything that you heard in the show, let us know on our social media. You'll find all those links in the bio. Remember to give us a little follow and a like. As well, in our show notes, you'll find all the links to the artists that you heard us talk about and heard the songs from today. Thanks so much to all of those guys as well, because the music was amazing. And we're so excited that we got to share that with everybody. And we'll see you all back for the next show.